Happy draft week and welcome back to the Pylon Cam. It is your boy Mike if it's your first time here, and this is going to be our final mock draft of the mock draft season. Draft is this Thursday. We will be live streaming on YouTube, so please come out, please join the live stream. It's always a bunch of fun every year. This year it's going to be a drink along, so we'll bring your favorite drink and we'll enjoy the draft together. So with all that being said, this is going to be predictive mock. There will be trades, and I'm going to take some picks that may not seem consensus based off of research I've done on each team. The stupid kink. Basically based off the research I've done on each team and who they've been talking to and who may be a first-round pick, but not consensus a first-round pick. There's a lot of players, I think, that are in this class that are going to sneak into the first round that are not talked about. And there are 3 or 4 towards the back end of the draft that I picked that I think people are going to be like, you're an idiot. But I'm like, am I? Anyways, first pick, barring an act of God, it's going to be Caleb Williams. Second pick, Jaden Daniels, in my opinion. I think that is where Washington is leading. The Raiders are heavily in on Jaden Daniels. That is open knowledge, and they've called about the number 2 pick. That was reported by Adam Schefter or Tom Pelissero. I don't remember, but both 2 reputable guys. And I think knowing who... one, I don't think Washington wants to risk moving out. 2, it's always the trail, the breadcrumbs have always led to Jaden Daniels. And the other thing is just the odds. And I'm not one that, am basing this off of the betting market, but I think the betting market has shifted enough where it was heavily favored Daniels, then it went to a near 50-50 split, and then it's back to heavily favoring Daniels again. But with these things, like if you go back to 2021 and you look at the 49ers draft of who they were predicted to get, it was Mac Jones across the board, and they ended up taking Trey Lance, which that news broke, I think, about like 3 days before the draft. And here we are 2 days before the draft, and it's still Jaden Daniels. I think that's who it's going to be. I think the Vikings and Giants are calling New England because they're assuming that Drake May is the pick, that the player that falls to pick 3. And here's where I want to kind of call a timeout real quick and stop and talk about this in depth. I went back and reviewed my first mock draft, and in that video I said of all the top 3 teams, this is when Sam Howell was still a Commander and when Justin Fields was still a Bear, it was New England. And even after Fields goes, even after Jaden Daniels goes, it's still New England if we're talking about long-term outlook. Like, New England is at phase 1, square one, ground zero of a rebuild. You are in a conference where you're going to have to play Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, all in the playoffs. And that's in the Aaron Rodgers as well, who's in your division. Josh Allen is in your division. This notion of like we have to build out the roster first and then get the quarterback. Here's the thing. You build out the roster, you're never picking at 3 again. Look at the Lions. And look at the 49ers who are playing with Mr. Irrelevant. They've built out their roster, and they had to trade up to 3 for Trey Lance. If you build the roster, you're never going to have another chance at Drake May. You're never going to have a chance at this type of prospect. And to the crowd that's like, oh, well, Drake May isn't ready to play, you can't take him right away. I never picked Jaden Daniels. Excuse me. You can't play him right away. Well, you're paying Jacoby Brissett $10 million for a reason. Another little nugget of information that came out today was the Patriots their plan they were telling veteran offensive skill players on was we're going to sign a quarterback for $8 to $10 million and then we're going to draft a quarterback at 3. That's our plan. They're paying Jacoby Brissett $10 million on the nose. I think $10 or $8 million on the nose. One of those 2 numbers, which lo and behold, they were telling the truth. Why would they be lying about picking a quarterback at 3? Where New England can really screw this up is if they take J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion. And I am a Giants fan. I'm hoping they take J.J. McCarthy. I just really don't think they're going to. I don't think that they... Maybe they will. I mean, the one thing that, like, the one voice in the back of my head is, like, when you talk about J.J. McCarthy, everybody brings up winning culture. He's a winner. He helped. There was a story that came out about him at Michigan where he was telling recruits like, "Hey, if you're going to come here to party and go chase girls, like don't come," which says a lot about him. A little bit of a hardo. No, I'm just kidding. But it does say a lot about him, and I think New England is accustomed to a winning culture, and they know that J.J. McCarthy has always been throughout his career up to this point a winner. So I think they're going to stick and pick. I could see them taking J.J. McCarthy. But I think they will come to their senses. Like, because here's the thing. Like, if you draft J.J. McCarthy, he's never shown the upside to win on his own. Drake May has willed Carolina to wins on his own. And you're going to need that in the AFC. I don't think that you're going to risk passing on a baby Josh Allen / Justin Herbert prototype or archetype player for JJ. I just don't think it's going to happen. The other thing is, I don't think teams are really going to trade a king's ransom for JJ McCarthy, bringing us to pick 4. Arizona's already said they want 3 first-round picks to move out of 4. That's not happening. Like, I really don't think. I'm talking particularly about Minnesota here. I don't think they're going to move 3 firsts, let alone 2 firsts, to come get JJ at 4. I think that what's going to happen is Arizona's going to end up just taking Marvin Harrison. You're getting unquestionably. Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams, but you were getting unquestionably a top 2 player in the draft. I would lean top 1 player in the draft at pick 4. That's incredible value. It's a huge need on your team. It makes no sense to risk losing it unless New England goes JJ at 3 and the Giants come up to pick 4 for Drake May and you get Neighbors plus at pick 4. Or at pick 6, I'm sorry. Because I don't think the Chargers would pass on Marvin Harrison. No matter what their scheme's going to be. It's going to be a run-dominant scheme. They're not going to throw a lot, even with Justin Herbert. That's just based off of historical data. But I don't think they would pass on Marvin Harrison. I just don't think they would do that. Pick 5. And I want to say this. I think that if they do go receiver here, they're going to take Odunze. It's just the type of player they've always drafted. 6'2 plus, contested catch, big body guy. That is who the Chargers have always drafted. I know you're going to say different ownership, different GM. I still think that that's who the character of Odunze is what Harbaugh is looking at. There's no not that there's really any character concerns with Malik Neighbors. I'm not saying that, but to know you're getting a captain, someone who is kind of just like elite, not elite, but he's a fantastic run blocker, comes to work every day, polished route runner, a guy you could go to on 3rd down and 3rd and long. I think that's what the Chargers are going to need. But I don't think they go Odunze here. I don't think the Vikings are going to give them a good enough offer to come up to 5. And I think you're going to get a unquestioned top 5 player in the draft in Joe Alt. I know Chargers fans are going to be pissed, but like, I think I've gotten to the point where we've talked so much about trades that we're forgetting, like, it's not Madden. Like, the Vikings aren't going to give their soul to come up for QB4. I don't think so, at least. I think, like I said, there will be trades. They haven't happened yet, but they're coming, and there are a lot of them. But I just think that at pick 5, like, it's either Odunze or Alt, and I think with what the Chargers are trying to build, it's going to be Alt. The other scenario is, if the Vikings do offer them a good enough offer, they trade back and they take Fuaga or Bowers, whoever's there. I mean, I don't know what the board will look like in that scenario, but I think they're actually just going to stick at 5 and take Alt. I think Alt is going to be an elite right tackle. There's already been talks about the Chargers and Giants, if they draft him, moving him to right tackle, because the Chargers have Rashawn Slater and the Giants have Andrew Thomas. So you're not going to move those guys. Pick 6. I think this is Malik Neighbors. I know there's been a ton of talk about J.J. McCarthy. I just don't think that the Giants value J.J. McCarthy in the way that the media is trying to make it sound like they value him. Yes, they've done homework on all of these quarterbacks. But I think that what I've learned from doing this for over 3 years now is the first reports are always the most accurate. And then throughout the draft process, stuff comes out. I think the first reports are always the most accurate. And then when the draft season comes into full effect, things get blown up to make narratives. And they've always been linked to Drake May. The Giants have been linked to Drake. They've gone to like 6 of his games in person. They've been linked to him this entire time. This JJ stuff started after the fact. I think a lot of it is smoke to get someone to come in front of them, to get value to fall down the board. They probably do like him. They did take him out to do 2 dinners, but they also did homework on everybody else. I mean, Joe Shane has also said, like, we do a vetting process for all these players because you don't know who's going to become a free agent. And I think that's a very good approach to this. But I do think that they did pay Daniel Jones. Unless they're getting Drake May, who I think is more like Josh Allen than Justin Herbert, in my opinion. They're just not going to get a quarterback. I think they're going to take arguably a top 3 player in the draft in Malik Neighbors, because some people have him over Marvin Harrison, which I don't really disagree with. I think it's close. I think it's preference, but with Daniel Jones, who has shown that he's a more conservative style quarterback, you want the explosive playmaker, and that is Malik Neighbors. Over Odunze, I think Malik Neighbors is arguably the best yak receiver he is the best yak receiver in the class, with also home run hitting speed. And we'll see. I think Daniel Jones, I think everything that went wrong for the Giants could have gone wrong, and I think it started on the first drive when Andrew Thomas got hurt, and it spiraled out of hand from there. I mean, if you really know the Giants and you really understand how the Giants are built, the mainstream media will tell you, oh, they're built around Saquon. That's not true. Everything the Giants do on offense is predicated on Andrew Thomas's health. And when you lose Andrew Thomas, you have no passing game and you have no run game. You definitely have no passing game because... Anyway, I don't want to... This isn't a Giants mock draft. Pick 7 is the Titans. Everybody has this penciled in for Joe Alt. But Joe Alt's not here. And going back to what was true prior... And I think that if you didn't listen to the last mock draft, please go check it out. I did it with Football Analysis, who is a phenomenal YouTuber. He does great work. It's a really good video. You should go check it out. The conversation is really good. Olu Fashanu was a top 5 prospect last year. He came into the year top 5 prospect. And then there's one report that comes out that has strength concerns. I asked... It wasn't Duke Mayweather, but it was an offensive line guy on Twitter, and I was like, "Is there real concerns with Olu Fashanu?" I'll link it in the description. And he's like, "No, it's just hand placement and hand speed. It's not strength." And this is the best. People will argue. I will argue he's the best pass protector in the class. And if you're trying to evaluate Will Levis, you don't need to see how well he hands off the ball. You need to see how well he throws the ball. And if Joe Alt's not here, I think Olu Fashanu at pick 7 makes the most sense. It's always made the most sense, and we get sucked into all these prospects and the new fad of the week, and here's J.C. Latham, and here's all this guy, and Marius Mims, and whatever. But Olu Fashanu is still that guy, and he's a phenomenal person. He's an engineering grad. Didn't come out last year because he wanted his degree, which was extremely smart. He's an extremely hard worker. He was instrumental for the Penn State offense. What are we doing? Moving this guy down to mid-teens. That's crazy. That's crazy in my opinion. Now here we have the first trade. If you want to know the trade value, comment, because I'm not doing it in the video. People get so hung up on trade value, it's disgusting. So we're going to have Minnesota trade here. And for the sake of this video, I'm just forcing this trade through, and this is all you're getting. I don't think it costs pick 23. I think it's 11, and they could add something for the QB tax in later rounds. I don't think they have to give 11 and 23 to move up 3 spots. I think that's kind of crazy. So it's just going to be pick 11. So the Vikings are still going to have 2 first-round picks, but it's probably going to cost them both of their thirds, if I had to guess. It's going to cost them both their thirds, and then maybe Cleveland's 5. And then... maybe they get pick 197. I don't know. Something like that. I don't even have to force this. So that's the trade. If you don't like the trade value, whatever. I can't tell you if you're right or wrong. I can't tell you if I'm right or wrong. I just think that this trade will happen. And here is where we see J.J. McCarthy come off the board. I don't think they're going to have to give a ransom to move up to 5. I don't think the Giants are going to take him. There is pressure on the Giants taking him. For the Vikings feel pressure from the Giants. But I think that that's a gamble that the Vikings would be willing to take, in my opinion. Unless they want to trade up with the Giants, which could happen. Joe Shane has talked a lot about they're not a player away. They need to build, which in order to build, you get more picks. So maybe they trade up to 6. But I don't think the Giants pass on Neighbors or Odunze, and I think they stick at pick 8 and take JJ. We're gonna have a lot of trades down right here, down the stretch. The next trade is going to be Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is going to come up to pick 9, being that they seriously, need receiver help. They've brought in every corner in the top 30 visits. They brought in Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Quinn McKinstry, Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins. They haven't brought in Odunze, which is interesting, which made me really want to change this, but I already did it, so I'm just going to do it. And maybe they trade up for Quinyon Mitchell. Maybe it's not Rome Odunze, but they need that guy. And I think T. Higgins is a guy that could get traded on draft night. But I don't think Jacksonville will do it, which is stupid. I think that's stupid. I'm just saying. But again, I'm not sure what the draft capital is going to be. I would say pick 17 and pick 114, something like that. Or I'm sorry, not 114, 96. That's like very similar to what the A.J. Brown trade was. And then I think they got, the Titans got something back as well. But we're just going to go with this for now. If you want to argue about the draft trade, the draft value, sure. And we're going to take Rome Odunze. The Jets at pick 10. Everybody said that the Jets were taking Talisi Fuaga. It was actually, someone reputable said there's a phrase in the draft community where it's chalk. Like Caleb Williams is chalk, meaning it's going to happen. They said that Talisi Fuaga to the Jets is Sharpie. That's how bad Joe Douglas wants Talisi Fuaga. Then all of a sudden you hear these reports about Woody Johnson wanting to get a skill player, which I don't doubt because Woody Johnson has, this is why I will defend Joe Douglas. Woody Johnson has meddled every single draft year. You're telling me the guy who helped draft Lamar Jackson took Zach Wilson over Justin Fields? Like I'm sorry, that was Woody Johnson. Anyways, Woody Johnson wants Brock Bowers or Rome Odunze. I don't think so. I think if you're going to go all in this year, which you should because Aaron Rodgers is coming off an Achilles tear, you don't know what's going to happen in 2 years, you need to protect him, and you could guarantee that Tyron Smith is going to miss games. And I know Tyron Smith plays left tackle, but Talisi Fuaga on a team that's going to run the ball, and they want to be really good at running the ball, and in my opinion, they have the best running back in football. I know that's a hot take because Christian McCaffrey is alive, but Breece Hall is that guy. Like I banged the table for Breece Hall last year, and he came through. This year, I think we're going to see another level of him that's even better than what he already was. And then at a pick 11 with Atlanta. So Atlanta has brought in every first-round edge rusher pretty much to a top 30 visit. There was a report last year that they were very upset that Jared Verse went back to school when they had pick 8. Okay? I think that Jared Verse is their guy. I think that's who they want. I don't know that he's the best edge rusher. I'm a fan of Dallas Turner and Liatu Latu, but this is predictive. I'm trying to predict what's going to happen Thursday night. And I think that Atlanta, this is who they want. This is who they think the best edge rusher in the class is. Are they going to be right? I don't know. But I think that this is who they want. Just based off of reports and stuff. And then Denver at pick 12. We're going to have another trade here. Denver is going to trade back with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a very, 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 very aggressive organization. I'm not sure what this compensation was going to look like. So if you want to talk about it, leave a comment. So we have Denver moving back to 12 or to 22 and Philadelphia coming all the way up to 12. And I think being in a win now scenario for Philadelphia, like they want to win before these contracts start really hitting the cap. I think they're coming up for the best corner in the class, and that's Quinyon Mitchell. I think they're going to be very aggressive in this move. I think that if they stay, they're going to take a tackle. Maybe there's reports too that Amarius Mims is going to come off the board really early. But I don't think that Philadelphia will trade up in a win now year to get a developmental tackle prospect, even though I think it'd be really smart. But they want to win this year. And in order to win this year, you need a better secondary because your secondary is Swiss cheese last year. And again, like I'm a Giants fan. I hope this doesn't happen. But I think that if I was a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I would absolutely want the best corner in the class because Darius Slay's not getting younger and James Bradbury's garbage. But respectfully, because he was a Giant and he did great things for the Giants. But at pick 13, I have this team trading, the Raiders trading back. Reports are that Michael Penix could go here. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. So I have them trading back with the Rams because the Rams is the OG F them picks team. You want to talk about the trade capital? Comment, and we can talk about it there. We're not going to talk about it now. I don't want it to be a distraction. So we're going to force this trade. And Dallas is coming, or not Dallas. The Rams are coming up for Latu. You could be saying, oh, well, why would they come up for Latu? Like, they probably wouldn't have to. This is the player they're linked to, and it's at a massive position of need. And Latu is someone I've been championing. I think he is the best edge in the class if he was healthy. There's very big medical concerns, but everybody's saying he passed the tests. He looks fine. Jalen Phillips, a few years ago, if you remember Jalen Phillips, I think he was a 2021 class, came out. Everybody was like, he's not going to go round 1. He has the injury concerns. I think he went pick 17. So this is similar range. Maybe it was pick 13. I don't remember. But same with Latu. I think Latu and Jalen Phillips, I believe it was also neck concerns. He's been fine. He tore his Achilles this year, but that's not what we're talking about. It's Latu. I think Latu has the best package of edge rush moves. He has by far the most developed counter moves. He has the best plan of attack of any edge rusher in this class. Can he grow? As how high is his ceiling? I don't know because he's already really dominant and he's just going to get more polish. So like maybe he adds some weight. I don't know. But if you watch the Rams Lions wildcard game, they could not move Jared Goff. Like, they couldn't even get to Jared Goff. And I think that getting pressure to the quarterback is a huge need for the Rams moving forward, especially with Aaron Donald being gone. Like, I know that they like Marius Mims. I know that they like Troy Fautanu, but I think that Latu is who they want. Like, that's putting him with Kobe Turner. Hopefully Kobe Turner takes a step. And then maybe you get an interior guy later in the draft. But this is their guy. I think this is who, and they don't care about picks. Like they have showed us they do not care about picks, and they will use them how they see fit. But the Saints at pick 14, this has to be tackle, and I think the player I'm going here is Amarius Mims. Trevor Penning has not been who you hoped, and Kyle Ramczyk may never play again. I mean, his status is already up in the air for this year. So what are you going to do? You have to get a tackle. And I think Amarius Mims is already a solid run blocker. He needs to develop as a pass protector. But the Saints are going to want to run the ball. Alvin Kamara is an interesting draft night trade. I think the receivers are going to go day 2. I think we're going to see the receivers get moved on in the beginning of the second round. But for round 1, I think that the Saints are going to take Mims. And then at pick 15, corner is a huge need for the Colts. But Shane Steichen has been able to do great things with tight ends. And with Anthony Richardson still kind of learning and needing that safety blanket, and Brock Bowers can do everything, definitely seems like this is the floor for him. I know a lot of people are saying that, but I do agree. I think this is the floor for him. Maybe the Saints can take him. Yeah, the Saints might be able to take him. Maybe the Rams come up for him. I don't think they would, but they're in play. But yeah. And then at pick 16, I'm very confident that it's going to be one of these 3 at the top: Cooper DeJean, Johnny Newton, or Byron Murphy. I think it's going to be Byron Murphy. The hesitancy I have is he's only like 6'1" or 6 foot, which is pretty tiny for an interior defensive lineman height-wise, because you want to be able to put your arms up to swat down the ball. But I do think he's the best. I've said it the whole time. I think he's the best interior in the class, and people are starting to catch on to that. Like, and I know with Mike McDonald, with what he just did with I'm blanking on his name, from the Ravens, Matabuke. I heard in a interview with Mike McDonald, or someone was talking about they interviewed Mike McDonald or something like that. Mike McDonald wants he calls it the curtain. And what the curtain is you're not going to, first we're going to stop the run. And that's how he's going to develop this defense, which is pretty anemic. I mean, you have Devin Witherspoon, who played most of his time as a slot corner which is an increasing position of need in the NFL. Tariq Woolen took a step back. You have Leonard Williams, who came back, but you really need that guy because Leonard Williams is older now. He's not going to be able to play every snap. Byron Murphy is a do-it-all interior, and I think playing alongside Leonard Williams, who's had those Pro Bowl years, who's been very successful in the NFL, putting him next to Byron Murphy is a fantastic, fantastic idea. And then at pick 17, we have the Bears taking Johnny Newton. I think continuing, you got your quarterback. You passed on Odunze, which I think is a good and a bad idea. I think the Bears are way better than people realize. Like, people don't understand that, or don't remember, I would rather say, that the Bears defense was playing at a very high level at the back end of last year. Like, the Bears were picking at pick 9, and they almost made the wild card. They were not picking at pick 1. The Panthers are picking at pick 1, and they have the Bears pick. Or the Bears have the Panthers pick. But with Johnny Newton, I think you're really going to solidify that defense, and you've put the veteran pieces in place for Caleb Williams to be successful. The offensive line isn't that bad, and it's a pretty deep class. You can fill holes later, even though you don't have many picks. You have high-value picks. So you can find that offensive line help or that receiver help later on. You have Keenan Allen. You have DJ Moore, who I'm a huge fan of DJ Moore. I wanted the Giants to trade for DJ Moore in the beginning of 2022, and then the Bears did it, and it broke my heart, but that's okay. Bengals, pick 18. This is a player that I've mocked. I think Malik Neighbors. No, because I traded up. I had the Giants trade up in one mock draft. I think Malik Neighbors, or no, I'm sorry. I think J.C. Latham is a player I have mocked every single time to the Bengals, and because they need to replace Jonah Williams, and I think that very well could happen. So here we have pick 19. And I really wanted to take Dallas Turner if he fell here. One of the edges is going to fall. In this case, like, usually it's Jared Verse, but I think if Atlanta really wants Verse, or I'm sorry, not Verse. If Atlanta wants Verse that bad, usually Verse is the one that falls because usually they take Dallas Turner. But if Verse is their guy, then Turner is probably going to fall. And we already saw Latu go at pick 13. So in this scenario, surprise twist on draft night, the fall of Dallas Turner, which very well could happen. But I think because the Raiders took Tyree Wilson at pick 7 last year, and you had Max Crosby, and you just signed Christian Wilkins, maybe you roll the dice on Tyree Wilson, who you did just invest a 7th overall pick in, and hope he takes a step, and pass on Turner, and fill a huge hole at a position of need in Terrion Arnold. Because that secondary is bad and your pass rush is really, really good. It's time to put some clamps in the secondary. And I think that starts with the cornerback 1, who Terrion Arnold will be. Pick 20 is the Steelers. And here's where we have another trade. And this is a player who I think is going to go a lot higher than people are anticipating. And the Cowboys are heavily, heavily linked to this player. So we're going to have them take this player and not risk losing him to the Steelers, and that's Graham Barton. I think Graham Barton is going to be a very good plug-and-play guard immediately. You have Tyler Smith, who's been playing at left tackle, and played at left tackle at a pretty high level. Maybe you leave him there, and then you put Graham Barton next to him at left guard. And if worse comes to worse, you could switch him, because you could see that Graham Barton is listed as tackle. People are worried about his size. They were worried about Peter Skoronski's size, who I also said it's probably not going to be a big deal. It turns out it wasn't a big deal when Skoronski had to plug and play at tackle when injuries happened. I think the same is true for Graham Barton. He's just such a good player. One of my favorite players in the draft. And then Miami at pick 21. We're going to have another trade here, and it's going to be with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to come up. The Cardinals are Monty Eisefort is no stranger to moving around the draft board. And again, like, if you have an issue with the draft capital or the draft value for the trades, or the trade value, what I'm trying to say, just comment and we can talk it out. But I think that with Dallas Turner just sitting here, someone's got to come up for him, and I think it's going to be Arizona. If this is the case, Arizona is definitely going to come up for him. And then Broncos at 22. This is a roster that just needs players. I was looking at the roster before I recorded this video, and like there are just holes everywhere. You like, I thought about maybe just staying and taking Jackson Powers Johnson, but like there are PS2 rumors, which I don't think they're going to trade him. Picking up the 5th-year option signals to me a trade could potentially happen, because if you didn't, maybe you're just trying to extend. Because you could have signed him to a contract and and kicked the money down the road. So maybe you sign the 5th-year option, trade him, and then let another team extend him on their own terms. But I don't think he's going to get traded. I mean, I just don't think. I don't think that the Broncos are going to move up to trade. I don't think they have to, because unless they're moving up for JJ, you're not going to stick and pick and take Bo Nix. But nobody is going to take Bo Nix. I think that's what people are not understanding, is like these quarterbacks are going to fall. JJ already fell to pick 8 in this scenario, which I think is very realistic. Bo Nix and Michael Penix probably don't go in the first round. I do have one of them going in the first round of this draft. I will not say who, but I don't think you have to worry about someone leaping you for him, is my point. So with this, just the sake of getting more ammo, more dart throws, I had the Broncos trade back with the Buffalo Bills. Trade value, we can talk about it in the comments, so leave a comment. And I had the Bills coming up for, this is where I got torn, because I've read reports that A.D. Mitchell is going to go top 20. I've also read reports that Brian Thomas might go top 12. So I think one of these guys is going to go. I think the player with more steam is Brian Thomas. And in Philly, Buffalo needs that X guy that they can put on the outside to win on an island. And I think Brian Thomas has a way higher ceiling than A.D. Mitchell. I think Brian Thomas is much more raw than A.D. Mitchell, and he analytically had a better profile. So I think, to me, that signals Brian Thomas has greater chance of success and already had equal to production in college. So I think coming up for Brian Thomas, getting ahead of some of these teams is a huge, huge deal. Vikings at pick 23. I think we've got our quarterback of the future. Now let's get a corner to help our secondary, help Brian Flores, and we're going to take Cooper DeJean. Probably the best player still on the board. The Steelers at pick 24. Player they're heavily linked to, and I think is the correct pick. I know you need tackle, but Troy Fautanu may not be the best tackle. There's also been a lot of medical reports coming out about his knee. That his knee just might not be where it needs to be at, no pun intended, and might get worse. So he might take he might be a shock draft faller on draft night. And I think Jackson Powers Johnson is one of those players where he's one of the safest picks of the draft. And I've always advocated that centers should be looked at as a more valuable piece than they are looked at. Just because a good center, centers hit the market, but a good center, who you could develop and keep around, becomes such a valuable asset because they learn the offense. They could protect rookie quarterbacks. I mean, look at what Travis Kelce did for Jalen Hurts, fixing plays at the line of scrimmage, setting the protections, for helping Jalen Hurts understand that and get better at that. I think for the Steelers, who have no long-term answer at quarterback at the moment, getting your center and hoping to develop him is in a very deep tackle class. This is a very shallow center class. In a very deep tackle class, I think this is a good move. Pick 25 is the Packers. I think it's still defense. People are talking about Packers taking going rogue or against their ways in taking a first-round talent tackle, which they don't do. I don't think they do it. I think organizations like the Packers, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and they are in a very, very good spot with where they are now. I know David Bakhtiari left, but he didn't play last year, and you still won a playoff game. What's the urgency to fix tackle at pick 25 when your defense is what needs the work? Therefore, we are going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry, someone I'm very, very high on. I think if you want to hear me rant, go watch the last video. Pick 26 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And here is where Fautanu comes off the board, because I think he could plug and play at guard. And I think this is a far enough slide where it makes sense if the knee concern is real. This is where it makes sense. Maybe Jordan Morgan comes off the board here, but I don't think he does. Miami Dolphins at pick 27 after trading back with Arizona. This is where I said at the beginning of the video, like, I'm going to take some liberties here of what I've researched and what teams are telling us without telling us, and what we know about teams. Miami's number one priority, it seems, every year under Mike McDaniels is to get faster. And who better to get you faster than Xavier Worthy? And I know it sounds like a meme, but this kid broke the combine record. People think he's like not a route runner, which is so not true. He's arguably, in my opinion, a better route runner than A.D. Mitchell. He wasn't asked to run a ton of routes like A.D. Mitchell was, but on the routes he was asked to run, he was highly, highly successful at them, especially in the red zone. And he is a deep threat for another person for Tua to underthrow, but that's okay. And Jalen Waddle has had injuries every year. Tyreek Hill, I mean, he could be an early retirement. And there's really no offensive lineman to take here or edge, which are the other two positions I've mocked here. I think if you trade back and get more picks, and then you could take Xavier Worthy, you're coming out in a good situation because you could fill those holes, especially offensive line, later in the draft. Getting a 4.21 speedster, this is where your only spot you're going to get him. Then at pick 28 is the Broncos. They did just trade for Zach Wilson, and I really wanted to take A.D. Mitchell here, or Zach Frazier, who I'm very, very high on here. But I think Sean Payton is just going to get his guy. And I think that it's going to be Bo Nix. And I know that sounds weird because they have Jarrett Stidham, who they extended. They just traded for Zach Wilson. But I mean, those aren't the answer at quarterback. Like, Jarrett Stidham's not the guy. And I understand you have so many needs. But think about this. I didn't show the draft capital in this video, but you just traded back twice. You're going to get at least a second in there, a third in there, a future second, a future third. You're going to get picks, and you're going to get picks for this year. Get your quarterback if you think that it's Bo Nix. I mean, you can make an argument they just stack talent, and they take a shot at Michael Pratt in the middle rounds. That also could happen. But I think that Bo Nix is the type of quarterback where tell me what to do and I'll do it, and that's what Sean Payton wants. And I think that's what he's going to try to get out of Zach Wilson if Zach Wilson becomes a starter this year. I also could see, like, I mean, they're paying Stidham. They're splitting the cost with Zach Wilson, so maybe one of them gets cut, or maybe Bo Nix or Zach Wilson is QB3 this year. Bo Nix is QB3 this year. I don't know, but I do think that Denver is going to come out of round one with Bo Nix. I think that's going to happen one way or another. The Lions at pick 29, I think you keep your strength strong. You could go Chop Robinson here, who they seem to really like. But I also think that they want to bolster the interior of their line. And Zach Frazier just screams to me Detroit Lion. I'm pretty confident they took him in on a top 30 visit. Let me just maybe see if that's accurate. Detroit top 30 visits. Let's see. I thought I read they took Zach Frazier. Doesn't look like it, so maybe I'm wrong today. Lions local day? Hold on. Zach. No, they didn't bring in Zach Frazier. But it is a position of need, and he is a very, very talented player. I do think that Zach Frazier goes in round one, and I think he could go here or pick 31 to the Lions. Maybe he makes more sense at pick 30 to the 49ers. Maybe that makes more sense. But these next picks are players who were brought in on a top 30 visit. I'm pretty confident. At least I know the last two where I'm pretty sure I read that the Ravens did bring this player in, and that is A.D. Mitchell. I think he's going to go first round. I think Ladd McConkey would be a better pick, if I'm being honest. But I think A.D. Mitchell squeaks his way in the first round. He's just too good of a gamble to pass up, being that he is an insane athletic freak, and Rashad Bateman just hasn't been it. I mean, he just hasn't. And then I picked 31. This is where I think these last two picks, I think they're going to surprise people, and I'm going to get called an idiot for them, but I'm going to take that chance because it's what I've researched. And the 49ers are going to take Houston tackle Patrick Paul, who I think might project as a guard or might play a guard, which is what the 49ers need. And if not, they could develop in that guard and kick him to tackle or try him out of tackle. The 49ers have visited Patrick Paul on a top 30 visit. Patrick Paul himself has said he's going to go in the first round, which is do with that what you will. But he's been told by teams he's going first round. These reports happen all the time. But if the board fell this way, and I didn't feel great about anybody else, I don't. And a lot of these teams have brought in Patrick Paul on a top 30 visit. I know the Giants have. I know the Chiefs have. I know the Ravens have. I know the 49ers have. A lot of teams are interested in Patrick Paul. I think Patrick Paul is a player I've been talking about for a while. He was in my 2-rounder. I think he's going to be a really good player. And he might end up being a surprise pick in the first round. And this last pick is definitely going to be a surprise first-round pick. But I looked at the Chiefs' top 30 visits, and I'm not sure how much they draft from their top 30 list. I know the Giants are a team that draft heavily from their top 30 list, or their top 30 visits, not 30 list, their top 30 visits. And this is a player that quietly has generated first-round buzz. A lot of it, apparently, because he's on multiple top 30 visit lists. And that is edge rusher Marshawn Kneeland from Western Michigan. Has weight concerns, but he's 6'3". Just dominated at the Combine, dominated at the Senior Bowl. I mean, the Chiefs are known to just draft who they want to draft. I mean, they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Jonathan Taylor. They traded for Kadarius Toney. The Chiefs do what the Chiefs do, and it's okay because they have Patrick Mahomes. So if they think Marshawn Kneeland gives them the best chance to three-peat, then they're going to do it. But anyways, this is my final mock. Don't forget that we will be live streaming the draft on Thursday. Please come out, bring a drink. It'll be a good time. But that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for this last mock draft of the year. And I will catch you in the next video. Peace.